Hello, welcome back to the Sabbath Show. And it is that time of week for the Round 19 preview. Now, before we get into it, I just want to use this as a little opportunity because these videos have had some banger viewership for my channel size. So I wanted to use it as a little opportunity to remind you that on top of these prediction videos I do on Thursdays, I also, recap the Slater games on a Monday where, I share my thoughts with you all. Look, I want to build a little community where we can, extend on the things I have to say in my videos. So feel free to engage in the comment section. And, if stuff like this interests you, make sure to subscribe so you're reminded of when the videos drop. And if the video floats your boat, smash a like so I know how good the video is and, I can improve on it. Any feedback of yours is appreciated. But that is all I have to say. Let's get going with the first game of the round, and it starts on the now conventional time slot of Friday night. We have Port Adelaide and Collingwood. This one was going to be at the Adelaide Oval. It is now at Marvel Stadium. Last week, the Power, they beat the Saints. In a last quarter flurry, I guess you could say. They ran away with it, and the Pies, they lost the Carlton, they had it, and then they lost it. So, two different sides, different ends of the spectrum. Port are contending for a top 4 spot. The Pies, they're rebuilding. They're bringing in 2 debutants this week. And on the flip side, you have the experience of Travis Boak playing his 300th game. And he'll be pretty bummed that he can't do it in front of his friends and family. But, huge milestone. It looked like his career was shot playing half forward. And now he's right back in the guts. And he's doing a very good job there. Look, I think with this one, I'm going to say that Port will get the job done here because, the Pies, I think they've just got to go all out in experience now. They've got to get some games into their kids, see what they've got on their list, because they've probably got some talent there, but they haven't been able to get a gig in the senior side. So I think this is a good opportunity for the Pies to get some games into their kids, while for Port, I think this game will be a bit more about experimentation, seeing what works, what doesn't. I think the key forwards, they'll dominate, especially in the latter half of the game, as the Collingwood defenders, tire out. I think they're going to get peppered for the first couple quarters. I think Port will dominate. But I still think at times, in spurts, the Pies, they'll stand up well. They'll fight back. And I think the kids, I reckon they've got a few goals in them. So I won't be surprised if the Pies stick around for the first 3 quarters, first 2-3 quarters, but I think Port will ultimately run away with this one. And for the first game on Saturday, we have Carlton and North Melbourne, the first of 5 games on Saturday. Look, I think this is going to be closer than some people anticipate. North, they're on the bottom, but, they're playing a bit better than that in the last few weeks. Probably a bit stiff to not be closer at the final siren against Essendon. But look, there's some really good signs, and I think they can cause a little bit of trouble this week for Carlton. I think they've got Cunnington back in, Jed Anderson is back in, and I think Jared Polek's also, on the outskirts. He could be seeking a return this week. And for Carlton, they're getting Cripps back. And Murphy as well. So, this is a really intriguing matchup. But look, I think Carlton will be too strong in this one. And I'm not saying that just because I'm a Carlton fan. I think just the sheer importance of the fixture. They need to win this one. And I think they're going to come out very assertive. And they're going to go right from the first bounce. And I think this is going to be one of the few full matches that we play all year. Full 4-quarter performance, albeit against the bottom-ranked side. But I think we'll be able to hold them off. Although don't be surprised if North give us a scare, because I think that's a really Carlton thing to do. We move to the Q Clash. Brisbane play Gold Coast at 3:10 on Saturday afternoon. And I think Brisbane are going to be too strong in this one. Gold Coast, very strong few weeks. They are stuck with the Bulldogs, only lost by 2 goals. And in prior weeks, they've beaten Richmond and they've beaten GWS. That's it. But look, I think Brisbane, they've been struggling the last few weeks without Hipwood. And I think it's going to be a bit more difficult to manufacture a winning score in this one as well. But I think Gold Coast won't have the scoring power in this one to, get past that lower score of Brisbane. Like, I think Brisbane could score 75, but I don't think Gold Coast will be able to score more than 65. Because, King, he has the ability to kick 5 goals, but he does that every 5 weeks. And usually, this is with both of the King brothers, they usually get pushed around. It's always a nearly game for them. So this could be a 5-goal performance and propel them to a victory. But more likely than not, I think King will go kick maybe 2 tops. They'll put Andrews on him and he won't, have a sniff. But I think Brisbane will win this one. Not convincingly, but they'll win it by a few goals. We have West Coast and St Kilda at Optus Stadium, and this is another intriguing clash. St Kilda, they've been playing much better in recent weeks. Didn't have the stops to, pull it out against Port. But, the signs are there. They've got a lot of injuries, though, this week. No Marshall. Highmore's out last week. He was crucial to their success, especially a couple weeks ago against Brisbane. And West Coast, they've gotten a few back in the last couple weeks, a couple under injury clouds, but they all played last week and they were really pivotal to that win against Adelaide. Look, I think it's really tough to say West Coast will lose at home. I mean, they did it 2 weeks ago against North, but I'm going to say West Coast, and I'm only going to say West Coast because St Kilda's injury cloud, they're bringing in a lot of, fringe players. I mean, when they brought in Luke Dunstan about 2 months ago, they thought he was fringe, and he's in their best 22 now. So, look, I'm only going to say West Coast because of St Kilda's injury cloud. And, West Coast, they're at home. They've got a pretty full strength team, so it's going to be pretty tough to bypass them. But look, I acknowledge the fact that their form's been really mediocre the last few weeks, apart from last week. But I'm going to say, West Coast, they're going to win a huge game at home. And then we have the match of the round on Saturday night at the MCG. Melbourne taking on the Bulldogs at the home of football. This is a toss-up. And look, both sides have sort of trailed off a little bit in the last few weeks. Obviously, both started like a house on fire. But look, both teams, the Bulldogs, they didn't look 100% last week. And the D's, well, they drew against Hawthorn last week. So they're not coming off the best of form. And they haven't had very convincing victories in the last few weeks. They've been dropping more games. So this is a huge toss-up for me. It's a 50-50. I'm going to say that the D's do it. I think the D's will do it. It's going to be extremely tight. Last time the D's did it very convincingly, which I think caught a lot of people by surprise. But I'm just going to say the D's here. I think, they've proven that they can beat all the big sides. I think they've beaten all the top 4 sides, all the top 5. So, you know what? I think they're going to do it again. And they're not going to do it convincingly. I think it's going to be a scrap. But I do think that the D's will just get over the line against the Bulldogs in what is a very crucial game in securing the top 2. And then the other Saturday night game, one with lesser stakes, is the Crows taking on the Hawks at Marvel Stadium. And the Hawks, absolutely amazing from them last week to pull out a draw against the D's. And the Crows, they could not, pull off a surprise upset and perhaps, derail the Eagles' finals hopes. But look, this one is going to be another interesting fixture. I think that the Crows, they're getting a couple back this week, I believe. So they're going to be a bit stronger than the team they fielded last week. But the Hawks, they fielded a very youthful side last week. And they delivered. And I think they can deliver a similar performance. It's not necessarily one that features skill level, but if it's a scrap, then I think that the Hawks will get over the line. The game I'm talking about is the Adelaide Essendon game a few weeks ago. That was not a pretty game to watch, but Essendon comprehensively destroyed the Adelaide Crows. So you know what? I'm going to say the Hawks will win this one. I think the Hawks can do it again. They can repeat a similar effort to last week. So I'm going to make a bold call and say that the Hawks will get up over the Crows. We have 3 games on Sunday, starting at 12:30, nice and early. Sydney are playing the Fremantle Dockers, and the Dockers last week, they were given a reality check. I think that's what Damien Barrett called it, against the Geelong Cats. They just could not get it going all night, and their big players did not perform. As for the Swans, they started off very slow against GWS. But I didn't really watch the game, but their big players all came into the game much later on. Fair resilience to them, because I think teams of the last few years, that is, of the Sydney Swans, I think they would have given up. They would have lost all confidence in themselves if they went 5 goals down late in the first quarter. You know what I'm saying? So very, very strong performance, a very important win for them. And, one that will impact the GWS Giants negatively. So, look, I think the Swans are just going to be too good in this one. They've got a bit more polish in them if they play with pace. If Queensland is nice and sunny, I think they're going to thrive off of that. I think this is more going to be based on conditions. Then again, last week, even if it's raining and it doesn't really benefit the Swans and their game style, Freo did not adjust to that very well last week against a much tougher Cats side. So I think regardless of what the conditions will be, I think it'll suit the Swans. I think they're a much stronger side and they're higher on the table for that very reason. So I'm going to tip the Swans for this one. Then we move to the 3:20 fixture. Geelong are playing Richmond at the MCG, and Geelong, I think, will get up in this one. Last week, Richmond, they, delivered. They had a response in them that I didn't think would have happened after their pretty abysmal showing against Collingwood that last quarter a couple weeks back, and I didn't expect it. And I didn't expect it, especially without Dusty Martin, which, that was really surprising. But look, Geelong have, they've proven that they, get rid of all the sides lower than them. They dealt with Carlton, they dealt with Essendon, they dealt with Freo, and I think they're going to do the same again with Richmond. Very strong performance by them last week. They're just a well-drilled football side of what they do, albeit a very boring game style, especially for someone who watches it like me. But look, if it gets you wins, then you're going to stick with it. And I think, it's working. And I think they're going to be able to manipulate what Richmond does pretty much for the entirety of the game. Richmond also have a lot of experience. They are running a few kids in their side, but look, I think Richmond's experience is not going to be enough to combat Geelong's game style that they are so hell-bent on playing for the whole game. So I think Geelong will win this one. I think Richmond will have a couple spurts in them where they'll challenge and they'll be with the Cats, but I think overall the Cats are going to be too strong, as they've proven with many other games this year against lower ranked sides. Final game of the round, all the way on 6:10 p.m. Sunday night. And it is Essendon playing the Giants. This is another 50-50. But look, I'm just going to base it on form. Essendon, they've found ways to get the job done in recent weeks against, North, Adelaide, those guys. And look, the Giants, they haven't been up to scratch the last few weeks. They'll get Mumford back in this week. They were missing a ruckman last week. Josh Kelly's under an injury cloud. I'm filming this when no teams are out, so I'm basing it purely on, face value. But there have been times where GWS's midfield have gone missing at times. And look, I think Essendon, their midfield has the ability to do that to your football side. So I think the Bombers, they're going to have the midfield ascendancy all day. I think that the Giants, they're going to be a bit vulnerable in the back line, as they've shown that since Buckley went down, Jack Buckley. They've only got Davis and Haynes, as your main two. And I think Essendon will be able to exploit that. And, I think down the other end, GWS, they will kick a few. They'll kick a few. And I think a couple players are capable of kicking a bag. But I think the Bombers are going to have the overall team performance that they've been having the last few weeks, where it's a combination of kids and experience contributing. I think the kids, they'll, even if the Bombers start slow, I think the kids will, inject some pace, inject some assertiveness, and I think that'll get their experienced players switched on, and they'll help finish it off. If it's like a tied ball game at 3/4 time, I think they have the ability to kick away and have a 4-goal advantage by the final siren. So I think that's my prediction for this game. I think they'll win by 4 goals. And that is all for the round 19 preview. I hope you enjoyed this one. You know what I said earlier on in the video, so make sure you do that. But that's all. I hope you enjoyed this one, as I said, and I guess I'll see you for the recap on Monday. Peace out, guys.